Tuba Billy story time. So this past weekend, trip to the ER and to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Eggleston Hospital up in Atlanta. got my memory thinking back to over 5 years ago when we were there with my other daughter. So she was born with a congenital heart defect called tetralogy of Fallot. Basically, there's 4 different things wrong with her heart. She had a hole in her heart that would let the blue unoxygenated blood go over to the other side and get pumped throughout her body. So periodically she would just turn blue. It also comes with a constricted pulmonary valve, so the blood isn't allowed to really go to the lungs as it should. It's also an overriding aorta, so the aorta is over the septum, and so it doesn't allow that hole to close. Because of that, the heart needs to work harder, and so it becomes enlarged, and it gets like a boot shape. One of the hemispheres has to work harder than the others. So we found out that she had this when she was about 2 weeks old, and when she was born, the doctors at the hospital in Jessup said that it's like, well, and this is basically an exact quote. It's like, well, we heard a slight heart murmur. It's probably nothing. Just make sure you ask your pediatrician about it at her checkup. It's like, okay. And so we did. I reminded the pediatrician, and of course, the first time we listened, she was screaming and didn't hear anything. It's like, she's fine. Then she finally stopped screaming, listened again, and he's like, oh yeah, there's a heart murmur there. It's probably nothing, but just be cautious. We're gonna schedule an appointment with the pediatric cardiologist in Savannah. Probably nothing. These things go away on their own. It's like, so went to the pediatric cardiologist, and I was busy or something. I don't really remember. This was over 5 years ago. So I did not go with her. Well, my wife calls me, and her voice has a lot of worry in it, and basically said, I don't know what exactly is going on, but they said heart surgery. I was like, oh. So this was when she was 2 weeks old. We basically had weekly checkups with the cardiologist. And then when she was, I don't know, probably about 6 weeks old, I was changing her diaper. And of course she was crying, because that's what babies do. And all of a sudden it was like a wave from her feet all the way to her head, just started to turn blue, like this dead blue-gray color. And that's all I can explain it as. She just turned blue. It's like, oh, that kind of freaky. So this started happening more and more until finally when she was about 2 months old, the doctor said, okay, we're going to send her up to Eggleston. So we get a call from Eggleston. Now, mind you, we are in South Georgia, and they called and said, hey, we have a bed for Anna. Bring her on in. I'm like, okay, well, we're about 6 hours away. I said, okay, that's fine. And so yeah, we went, and make sure this truck didn't pull into me. And then it was a whirlwind. She started crashing. So at one point, a whole team of doctors and nurses came in. There were like 14 of them. And we just kind of got pushed back, and she was there for a matter of hours, then off to the cardiac ICU unit. I was like, all right. They debated and met and hemmed and hawed, and finally decided that she was not a good candidate for the full surgery, but because she was having so many what they call TET spells, they opted to give her a stent. So a stent bridges the gap that her heart was leaving to help with the blood circulation. So that surgery went well. That's still, you know, pretty much open heart surgery. They crack open her chest. The next day, it clogged. So the stent that they put in clotted. So after that, they had to go back in with a catheter through her veins, her arteries, and put a shunt into the stent to keep it open. So because of this, when she went home, finally, it was like 13 days in the hospital. She was on like 5 different medications we had to give her 3 times a day, including shots. She couldn't eat on her own. She's on a feeding tube, and we did this for 6 months, basically, just doing what we could to keep her alive. And she was considered shunt dependent. So if her shunt failed, she would die, basically. You know, that's kind of stressful for a parent. But we did it. When she was 7 months old, we went back for the second her surgery to repair the damage to her heart. It was successful. It was a much smoother visit. Oh, I forgot one detail with the they're getting somebody with the first visit. Of course, she was on sedatives. She was intubated twice, so they kept her pretty much knocked out the whole time. Well, when she was starting to come out of it, she kicked the IV out that was feeding her sedatives, and so she went off the sedatives cold turkey and had major withdrawal symptoms. Like, she was convulsing and retching, like gagging, and eyes going different directions. It was insane. But yeah, second visit was much better. And so we were thrust into this new world that we really didn't know anything about, of heart defects. And it is real, you know. 1 in 100 people, 100 kids that are born with a heart defect. Congenital heart defect is the leading killer of babies over any other birth defect combined. You know, 1/3 of the babies are diagnosed before they're born, 1/3 are diagnosed when they're born, and 1/3, like Anna, are diagnosed until after they're born, or until they unfortunately die or get very, very sick because of the defects. So it's something that's very real, very scary for those who have been into it. And we are part of a bigger community now that we help others. You know, even internationally. There's a guy over in England, Wales actually, I think, that oh, this car's coming up quick behind me, thank you. That was born with a heart defect, and has, you know, since had lots and lots of surgeries. And he's an adult, but he reached out to us when we were kind of in need, and then through Facebook we found out that he was about to have another surgery, so we sent a care package to them, to him and his family. I'm gonna stop in here and get gas, but anyway, I'll tell you all this just so you can kind of learn a little bit more about me, about you know, about a little bit more about my life. Getting personal, getting real here. Just remember, please, be excellent to each other. Tuba Billy, signing out. God be with you till we meet again.